Kenya managed to walk through this change life process. And as Handro said, my role basically was the change facilitator. And it kind of got scary at the beginning because you really don't know this change that is yet to happen. The project was called Child Wellbeing Improvement Project. So nobody really knew what the end result would look like, and I was supposed to drive this big bus, and it was going to affect the staff, it was going to affect me, it was going to affect everybody else, and there were instances where people would think it is Lydia's change, but it is not really my change, it is the management's change. So what we did was we had what we're calling now the breakthrough. It was a town hall meeting, and in the town hall meeting, we called several people from across the leadership of the organization, right from the directors to the middle-level management to the real implementers. And we said, what is really the problem? What is the problem with our sponsorship? It was all around sponsorship, how we do our sponsorship and how we do the child well-being outcomes. Sponsorship basically in World Vision is a situation where a sponsor identifies a child and chooses to relate with that child and sends money to the organization, and the organization does interventions or initiatives, activities that are to benefit the child, the family, and the entire community. Now, we had a problem in that, so that when the money is sent, it goes down, but the particular outcomes in terms of what you were saying, child well-being outcomes, do not really reflect on the child. So we said, as you said, this was now a global crisis, and World Vision had to say it. So as Kenya, we had to decide what is actually the problem. So what is it that we really need to change? And in that town hall meeting, we had teams of, I think, about 45 people in a room. And we looked at the main big problem, which read something like this: that our problem is inadequate compliance to standards and business processes in sponsorship management, and weak linkages to sponsorship programming, thus limiting our effective contribution to child well-being outcomes and customer satisfaction. Because you used to have all these many questions coming. I've not received this letter from my child. The child dropped out of school like 2 years ago, and the sponsor really doesn't know. So we are saying, what is it that we are not doing right? So that was the overall change, the overall problem that we had now to change. Now what we did was like, we used a process in the breakthrough which was called the fishbone analysis. And I think we know about problem trees and solution trees, how you develop them. So we said, okay, what is making us to have this problem? And one of the things we identified is that we are having different way of doing things, different way of doing sponsorship in different places, because we work in urban areas, we work in rural areas, we work in pastoral areas. And in terms of child monitoring, a child, for example, in a pastoral region can be present today. The next month, they have moved away for 3 months and do not see them. And then the sponsor wants to come and visit the child, only to arrive and find that the child is not there. So there were different kind of practices everywhere. And that's how we came up with the first cause, is that we don't have something uniform on how we manage these children in different ADPs. And then the next one is, okay, an ADP is Area Development Program. What happens is that it is defined geographically in terms of districts for those of us who come from Kenya, or locations or divisions. So it can be as big as 2 divisions or just 1 district, but doing different development interventions. So we have sponsored children inside there, and World Vision offices are in there, and an ADP can like have 3,500 sponsored children. So that means the donor sends the money to each of these children, and that money is put in a pool, and that money is used to develop the area. So there are what we're calling direct benefits and indirect benefits to the child. Direct benefits to the child is like the child is educated, which we're calling out the child well-being outcomes. The child has good health, the child is protected, they are able to participate, and they're living in a good environment. Now that is what the donor is holding us responsible for. So what we did was like, how do we monitor this information? We have a database called STEP. STEP is basically a database where we have the child information keyed in, and we found out that the way we were feeding that particular database was having an issue. Then the other issue we also got is that the knowledge and skills and practice of some people were really wanting. So those particular root causes were turned into objectives. Yeah, and it was now what we were basically going to work on. When you are reading them, they're like, you know, their end results. That is what we want to work on. And for this particular case, we are going to pick the quality assurance and use of step data in programming, which was like a system change. So we said if we change how we do that bit, then we are able to turn around this problem to cause it to be positive, in that our sponsorship link with our child well-being outcomes and we have results. So therefore, we also had some other root causes that were changed on this other side. Now you find that these three were handled by the real people who were actually doing the work. The people who are basically dealing with child monitoring, the people who are basically dealing with keying in information and all that. And this side was handled by the leadership because these are kind of high level issues that needed to be handled. Now, what happened is that I said we are going to single out the step data programming. And at that breakthrough town hall meeting, we came up with we built the solutions. That means we came out, then how do we change this into what is required to happen? And what happened is that we developed what we're calling recommendations. So for us to improve our step, to make sure that the quality assurance and use of step data in programming is effective, we said we are going to adapt improved step processes and quality control. And that meant that we needed to have some specific deliverables that is going to make this to be a turnaround time. And we said, therefore, in step, you're going to revise the business processes. How do you collect information into these databases? How do we use it? Okay, and how does our IT, the IT system support this process? So we said, in this solution, we have to have this turned around. The other thing is said that for us to have everybody involved, you're going to you're going to change people's JDs. Basically, that's what the bottom one is about. Adapt and implement roles and responsibilities that support the new step processes. So the group that worked on it decided to look at people's JDs, their roles and responsibilities, their framework, and how then do we coach them. So that was the solution, what we are calling the solution building interface.
Great. So you can see the continuum, the two examples, one around business process, the other around roles and responsibilities. Those were built, you know, they were, and then rolled out. So you see Lydia has really focused here, right? And we'll be moving along. I just want to get a sense. Remember, I asked the change, you know, for you to identify a particular change that you would be tracking through. Ran a certification course on change, and I would say 70% of the people in the room, Lydia, I don't know if you were actually in the build stage. So we're talking about change management, but it really wasn't a change yet. So from the change management perspective, until you're here, it doesn't begin to impact people's lives. But the fact that we're here, it certainly starts to impact people's anxiety levels because they know something's happening in terms of the organization, especially especially if it's something related to structure. Structure affects people's anxiety because you question, uh-oh, what about my job? What's going to be the impact? Okay, so once we get to the launch, there's another tool that we use. So when you get to the point of saying, okay, we have this new tool for monitoring children, there's the need to articulate, hopefully before, but at least at the point you're ready to roll it out, that there is a gap, that somehow the way we're doing it now is not working. We need to improve it. We need to strengthen it, right? And we have a vision for what it would look like when we're truly monitoring the children in the programs where we're working, that information the well-being of children affects the way we work with children in the communities, our programs on health and nutrition and education, that data somehow is helping, that there's a vision for what that's going to do for us. And I think, especially at executive levels, I know that in World Vision this is the case. Executives are very results kind of people. Those coming from kind of a business mindset that, look, we're here, we need to get there, build a bridge. It's very simple, right? You go linear fashion. But when we introduce people to the equation, it gets more complex. That if I was reporting to one person today, and then you told me tomorrow I'm reporting to someone else, you can't exactly just switch off and switch on. It's not so easy. There's a journey. There's some kind of a transition that has to happen as people. We can say we put the new structure in place. We can say we put the new business process in place, the new strategy in place. We can say we put it in place, from current to future. But when we factor in the human aspect, we can't say this is a fictive bridge. It doesn't exist. I mean, we can't actually do that. And one of the examples I like to tell, how am I on time? Yeah, okay. One of the examples I like to tell is of a story I heard, and I'm not sure, I haven't verified it, but it was from a former boss who worked with British Airways that acquired a Scottish airline. And basically what the employees of the Scottish airline had to do is they had to take their traditional Scottish dress and their formal uniforms, they threw it in a bin, like a garbage bin, right? And they picked up their shiny blue British Airways uniform and then were expected to go to work. I mean, can you imagine the trauma that produced? I mean, we're not machines, the people aren't machines, they can't just turn off and turn on. There's all sorts of loss associated with being taken over by another airline and having to take on a new identity and shift that needs to be taken into account. So there's danger. I think anyone who's been involved in organizational life have stories about scars that we've had. There are dangers when you talk about restructuring or a new shift or whatever. There are fears. If we manage change well as an organization, and I think it's not an easy thing to manage it well. I think all organizations are sort of learning. Even as much as we talk about it in World Vision, it's a cutting edge. It's a learning edge. Let me just mention something else before I mention that. Because of this, what is going to cause us to jump? Obviously, there's got to be some kind of a fire. I mean, there's got to be some kind of something that's pushing us to. Because if the pain of doing this, is great, then why jump? Why not just stay where we're at? Why not hide in the bushes somewhere and try to figure out? So the notion of some kind of impetus that would push. Not all change has to have that. It could be motivated by an opportunity. But my experience has been when there's a combination of some reason we have to do things differently that people feel and believe in, and some kind of a vision that things are better in the future, and that somebody has a plan out there that it's going to make it better, and I trust that person, then it's better. So jumping then. I mean, we say that organizational change requires people to jump, and hopefully the leader is not pushing people over the side, but rather jumping ahead.